to Apothecary After Dark.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Apothecary After Dark. I'm Dina, co-owner of the Apothecary. Danielle is traveling the country today, so I have a big treat for you. We always say that Apothecary After Dark is all about the conversations we have when we close and lock the door, what we talk about when we're all by ourselves, and have some of our employees today to talk about what it's like to work at the Apothecary. I'm really excited to be bringing you this episode with one of our longest tenured employees and then some of our newest employees, giving you a perspective of what is it like to work in a crazy metaphysical store, right? So I have Samantha, Haley, and Ty, and I'm so excited to welcome on to the episode today. So Samantha, you're gonna have like the most stories, right? Because Samantha is our reader. How long have you been working with us?
Oh my God. 3.5 now?
Yeah.
It'll be 4 in February.
Crazy.
Yeah. How much can I say without getting fired?
What? Okay. Craziest apothecary story.
Oh God. I feel like it has to get broken down into sections. There's like crazy customer, there's like crazy Dina, there's like crazy Danielle, there's like crazy ghost moments. Like they're all like so, I could like do it for hours. I think the first one that like I always come back to of like, wow, that was a crazy day. It always comes back to my clients and like the stuff that comes out of my room.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, the lady who caught her boyfriend cheating about 30 minutes before her appointment.
That was the day. I remember
was definitely interesting.
Yes. You guys have no idea.
No,
that day was insane.
That was a fun practice in boundaries of like my kindergarten teacher voice came back out where I was like, ooh, we're having some big feelings, but ooh, that attitude needs to go back on the other side of your teeth, ma'am. We had that. But I think my favorite was the one that sent everyone in the store upstairs to open my door and look at me like, what did you say to her? And it was the woman who stormed out screaming at the top of her lungs on the phone, going like, we had just closed. She's my last appointment of the day.
I remember that.
And we're making our way downstairs. I'm upstairs just processing. She calls by the end of the appointment, I had confirmed that her husband was cheating and she had 2 children and she was pregnant with a 3rd as we were having the conversation. And she gets on the phone and as she's leaving, she's screaming at the top of her lungs, all your shit on the lawn. I want it out before I'm home. God damn it, Dominic, like screaming. And then there's a long pause. And then there's just, don't ask how I know this. Merrick's a small town. People fucking talk. And then she's out the window, like gone.
Yeah, it was wild. That was actually wild. And
that was a lot.
And I thought actually that she was screaming at Samantha. So I was like, I started like, because she was screaming as she was coming downstairs.
Yeah,
right. And
right.
I grabbed my phone to film because I thought that she was like yelling or like I had to like have proof for like 911 or something.
Wait, you ran up with your phone?
No, I had her as she was coming down. I started recording
yes.
because I was like, do we need to have this like for proof? Like, is she gonna like come down here like whatever?
Cause a problem?
Yeah, that was actually wild.
No, there was only one, I think, client that you ever like rescued me from, because something that's really funny is the way that Danny does it way more than you do, but it's really funny hearing them talk about the people who work here because it's, the kids, like, we're going to go on vacation, like, make sure the kids are okay.
Yeah.
And that, like, consistently happens. And I tend to usually get left out of that, mainly because I'm almost 30. And what tends to cause that also tends to mean a lot of the times Dina trusts that, like, I can handle it myself. I'm an Aquarius, Midhaven. I'm a Gemini Mercury, play in traffic better than to play with me. Like, it's not a good idea. And so it's usually Dina knows I got it. And there was one time it was just, I was going back and forth with a client on my phone.
Oh yeah, on the phone.
And again, normally Dina doesn't get protective, but it was so funny. You were like, no, you were just, I'm explaining everything and I'm getting frustrated. So I'm like spiraling into it. And you just so calmly, it's just, can I see your phone? You're like so calm. And I'm just like, okay. And then it is the classic sound of like,
my phone.
like nails on the screen. And she's doing like the head bop as she's going occasionally. Yeah. And then she just hits send and gives me back my phone. And she's like, here you go. And just like leaves.
And we're done.
I think it's always going to be customer stories that are like top.
Yeah.
Because it's consistently really funny.
It's true. So now that we told everybody about like your fun apothecary stories, what is it that you actually do at the apothecary?
Yeah, God. So I'm obviously I'm a resident tarot reader. I wouldn't have the crazy stories if I wasn't. I'm the resident tarot reader. I'm the in-house witch for all spells and services and ghost-related questions and all things like that. That's usually where people come to me about. It's a running joke with that. When I first started working here, I became the ghost ambassador.
That's true.
So it's a lot of, I keep the store I keep the energy in the store going well. And when people bring their ick in, I get it out. And when dead come in that they're not supposed to, I tend to get them out. And that's kind of like the main roles that I work here, both what I do for pay and then just what are like, when you're going to work in a witchy store, like part of your job is going to be witchcraft. Like that's going to be part of it. So like that's also the other half that I do. That's not really what the clients see all that time. They see the big ass fires, but they usually don't know what I'm doing.
They love the fires. They love the cauldron.
They love to tell me that the stove is on fire.
Yes,
even though I'm standing in front of it.
So Samantha is available to do these things in person and virtually. Sometimes you'll find her on our TikTok live lighting things on fire.
It'll be about the size of my torso.
Yes, that happens. And yeah, we just like adore having her. She also has taught a lot of our classes. She leads all of our Wheel of the Year classes. Like the next one coming up is Mabon. We have Samhain. It's hard to believe that we're already at this point in the year.
It just happened.
Right? Like what goes on?
Like I remember the dumb supper from last year so clear. I feel like it was just 30 seconds ago. But yeah,
so
resident nerd
it's a little crazy. So to my right is Haley, and Haley's been here for quite some time now. She's been here for a year. We just realized.
We literally yesterday we just realized
she's been here for over a year. And Haley is also Danielle's daughter. So she sort of slid in as a temporarily, like, let me see how I like it. And now she's like totally.
Yeah, they needed some help. They needed some coverage. So I came in one day and then I was like, you know what? It would honestly be amazing to work here anyways because I'm into all these things and wanting to pursue it in my actual like life and career. So I'm like, this will just build my knowledge and then obviously just help out my mother anyways with growing her business. So it worked out really well. And now a year.
It's a year. I know. I'm literally like, we were just sitting on the floor. I was sitting on the floor yesterday. I was like, you've been here a year. Like what? I'm like, oh my gosh. So the Apothecary has a way of bending time. Have you guys figured that out yet?
Yes. And
it's weird.
Yeah.
Look at time. Like you walk in, you're like, I'm just going to go in for 5 minutes. And then it's like, zoop, zoop, and you're like, oh, okay.
Today I blinked and we were closed. And I was like, oh, okay. That's fine.
No, especially lately, there's been days where I'm like, I say it flies by, but today it flies by. And it genuinely, like, you blink. And because there's always something to do. Always we're just moving and grinding, especially nowadays with the TikToks. We're nonstop.
And
so
that's also just what happens when you don't hate your job.
Yes.
True.
Yes.
That is
Like
true.
when I don't want to be somewhere, I'm like staring at the clock.
Right.
See, like the second counter moving backwards, right?
Yeah.
Holy cow. It's like being in high school again.
Running away from me. Whereas like here it's like, oh shit, like I gotta go home.
Yeah. So what are some of your focus, Haley, of like the things that you like in terms of like metaphysical practice?
Oh, so outside of what I do for the business?
Yeah.
So what I've really been into was definitely, what really got me into this was astrology back in middle school days when like everybody's finding out their sun sign and like all of that. But then it leads you into the rabbit holes and you just go deep and deep and deep. And then it leads you to even more rabbit holes. And then now what I really primarily practice is I do tarot and then definitely the astrology, like I said. And then I've been really pursuing herbalism, but more in a natural, medicinal way. So instead of, I don't know too much about the magic and spell work side of the herbs, I'm more in the medicinal side. So I've been really pursuing that and then even incorporating spirituality into the medicinal practices. So like, let's say you want to work on your solar plexus, you could have some calendula, some chamomile, like, and really just it's basically just working on your soul foods and all of that.
Like elemental spirits really speak to you. Like I think like
Wait, what'd you say?
I think like elemental spirits really speak to you. Like you have a way of like looking at certain stuff and being like, oh, I know what that means. And it's like, you shouldn't, because I know damn well you haven't read anything about it. And then you're like, no, I haven't, but like I just know. And it's like, yeah, you're like communing with nature. Like,
I love that.
it's
No,
really,
definitely.
like you just like know stuff about like herbs. And I'll die on the hill that that's just the spirit of that plant, like communicating with you.
Oh, I love
like,
that.
Telling you how to use it.
No, I
Like,
love how
and
that
I
you
think
just put that into
comes
words.
so naturally to you, because like you're so green, that just like makes sense.
But she's
Right.
but she's green, but also she's just like a sweetheart of a person
Yeah.
too. I would say of all the people at the shop, Haley is like
The nicest.
the nicest innocent, because there could be somebody that walks in that's a little bit rude, maybe they're having a bad day, and we're like, oh my gosh, like we can't deal with this right now. And Haley's like, hi, how can I help you? And me and Danny are like, oh, there she goes. Like she's
We're all
so
a bunch
sweet.
of like energy matching air signs, and then we go
Right.
in the back and we're like, who talks to people like that? And you're just like, maybe they're having a rough day.
Because I'm just a firm believer we're all just little baby souls wandering this earth trying to figure life and shit out and just evolve and grow. So I just look at everybody from like a soul level of like, okay, we're all trying to figure life out and this earth out.
Isn't she cute?
So all people need is just some like ear to really just talk with them, hear them out, and like they'll tend to simmer down.
I know. I'm so glad that we're actually recording this, because this will be on the internet for forever and ever. So we can actually every decade look back at this and see if you're.
This is gonna be my lifelong.
45-year-old Haley feels.
No,
about
yeah.
people.
I already went through, like, a couple years ago, what really made my mindset change of this. I went through some stuff, and then I was like, okay, who am I to really form an opinion on anybody? I have no idea what they're going through. Maybe I know a little bit, but no one really knows what's going on in somebody's head. So I'm like, okay, I'm really gonna try to be the more positive thing that walks in their life and just spreading the love. That's all we really can
Keeps
do.
the shop's karma up.
Yes,
Like every,
Right.
like shit talk we she comes in and like sleeps.
carrying it on my back.
There's yin and yang in all things, for sure. And now Ty isn't the most recent employee, but the youngest employee.
Yes.
Right? And Ty has been shopping at the store since, how old were you when you first walked into the shop?
It was like 2020, 2021.
Okay.
Well, 2021. I guess you weren't open in 2020. 2021.
We were open, but we weren't open.
Right,
Yeah.
COVID shut things
Right. So I'm 17 now. So 2021, 4 years ago. Can't do math.
I love
Let's
it.
talk about it. I was like 14, 15.
Yeah.
14.
So Ty is a very good friend of my niece, Rihanna. And that's how I met Ty. And Ty would come into the shop all the time and get his little candles and ask questions about like different, you know, different spells and different practices. And then one day he came into the shop and you have a very specific way of saying my name. He came and he said, Dina, how old do I need to be to work here? And I said 16. And the minute Ty turned 16, he was like, I'm 16. I'm like, go get your working papers.
And then now,
Yeah. And here Ty is.
here I am, 17 now. Oh, it's Gaggy.
Here now.
Oh my God, my first day senior year was yesterday. It's insane. But yeah, I
crazy.
started shopping here as soon as like I would talk to Rihanna about being like, I'm starting to practice witchcraft because I started in 2020. And then she's like, oh, you should go to my aunt's shop. And I come and it was like one room. And then now I work here and we like own this whole quarter of the block. And I'm like, it's insane and so impressive. Because I remember being there when you were breaking down the door into the back.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God, they're going to like another room. And then now it's 2 rooms in the back, room in the up, next door.
2 buildings.
It's crazy, right?
yeah.
Crazy,
Everywhere.
right? So what would you say like your practice focus is?
My practice really focuses on, so it's been kind of all over the place because again, I started like 4 or 5 years ago.
Should be.
Yeah. So we've been sort of like trying to figure out where we fit. I mean me. Right now, I've really found out that hoodoo is something that calls to me. And for the record, I am biracial. My father is black and my mom is white. So hoodoo is sort of like in my blood in that, right? And I started researching it recently and it just really felt right to me. It really clicked because I've done a lot of spiritual practices in my life in the years that I've practiced, sort of seeing what works for me. And so far, nothing has worked as well as hoodoo for me, and nothing felt like so right. And I'm like really dedicated to learning it. And in the past, I've had a problem with like staying dedicated. Like, oh, I'm actually gonna like learn this and do it. But so far, hoodoo, like it comes naturally to me. And I feel like it's almost like Haley, you were saying the nature spirit speak to her and like tell like, oh, this is what it means pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know about nature, but I feel like a lot of stuff in hoodoo, it kind of like my brain fills it in before I finish reading.
It like grabs
It is.
your soul.
It's really grabbing my soul.
People.
Yeah.
I don't know a single person who doesn't practice hoodoo, who doesn't live, breathe, every step they take is rooted in that practice. Like,
Right.
It's very similar. That's why I talk to a lot of people in hoodoo. It's very similar to like death workers. It is everything we do, and
Right.
it leads into every part of our lives. It affects the way I make my coffee in the morning. And like hoodoo's very similar. So I think the fact that like when you find something that like hits you like a hammer over the head, and it's like, oh, I don't care about literally anything else. Like this is, I think it's your soul kind of coming home in a way.
Right.
And I think that's really similar because like there are certain paths and crafts that just grab you and go, forget doing anything else. Like let's go. And hoodoo always seems to be one of those. And whenever people fit there, like they end up growing into such incredible practitioners that honestly scare the shit out of me. Like because they're just so in balance with themselves and they just have such a wisdom and a knowledge. And I think you've always carried a wisdom that you shouldn't have at your age. And I think that makes you sit into hoodoo so comfortably.
Thank you. I do love it.
I love that.
And prior to hoodoo, one thing that really clicked for me, not as much as hoodoo, it was working with like more quote negative things or things that were sort of seen as evil. And I think I'll always find a way to talk about being queer. I think that comes from my being queer in that, which by the way, my pronouns are he, him, if y'all are wondering. Sam's a resident spell worker. I'm the resident cross-dresser.
Every story needs one.
Right.
It's true.
But
Amazing.
I think in magic, I've really been drawn to things that are considered like outcasted because obviously, you know, I'm sort of that part of side of the outcast. So working with spirits like demons or things that are perceived as evil, it always like called to me. I think that's also part of what hoodoo is, in the fact that it's so traditional and opposite of what like a lot of modern day spirituality is, and that's no shade to modern day spirituality. It all has its place in our magical community, but to me, what really like calls to me is like this like traditional like no one thinks about it anymore. It was born out of oppression. It sort of like saves oppressed people. Being a queer biracial person is sort of like really fit for me.
Also, queerness
That's
is like
beautiful.
inherently revolutionary. So
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
there's a nature in queerness to like look at things that people say are bad. Like,
Like our love with like Disney villains. It's like, it's bad.
Peel it
Oh, but
back.
she's bad.
yeah,
She's sickening.
like that's bad, and it's like you also say I'm bad. So like,
Right.
and start looking into it. It's also just very queer.
Absolutely.
I think what's really beautiful about our community, just like our shop community, is we come from so many diverse places. We have such diverse experience, and you know, we're born in different times, different generations, our perspectives, our lived life experience is so different, and yet I'm getting goosebumps. Like we have like this like beautiful community, but it really works, and it also helps us be better witches and shop owners because we're so diverse that if I can't understand your perspective, maybe Sam can, or maybe Haley can, or maybe Ty can, you know what I mean? And I think that's really important in finding a place that you're comfortable in to see like diversity of just humanity.
Especially when witchcraft can become so homogenized.
Yeah.
So many like witchcraft communities, you go in and you're like, oh, it's a cult. Oh, it's a cult. And like you have to back out, and it's like, oh, everyone has the same beliefs, the same perspectives, the same worldviews. Nobody argues with anybody. Meanwhile, like I'm sitting here locking every mirror, whether it's silver backed or not. Dina goes, that's too much goddamn time. Like, and we all like, and guess what? Both of our houses are safe and protected.
Right.
So like, a whole part of spirituality is that contrasting truths can exist simultaneously. And you don't get
100%.
that without diversity. And I think having diversity, and not just the fact that I think queer people outnumber straight people in the store, which is
Oh,
really
yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we have any one person who's a part of the same generation. We have people who are close.
Well,
but-
except to me and Danielle, because we were born on the same day.
You guys are the same, but everybody else is the same thing, a different generation. I don't think anyone here follows the same craft or works with the same type of deities or angels.
No.
And like that's why there's this constant like Vinny's learned a lot about certain things from me. I've learned a lot about certain things from Katie. And like there's a lot of information exchange. And I think even just in the short time I've been here, it's made me a better witch. It's like all of these other things because I think again it's very easy for spirituality to get really homogenized. And like we're in a place where it's like, oh, well, this is the only way to do that. And you have a store full of people who are going to go,
Totally. This past year, I've literally learned my just knowledge and growth has just been exponential because we are surrounded by so many different niches of this huge realm of spirituality. Because you can break it down into so many little pockets, and each one of us has our own strengths and weaknesses, and it's so beautiful.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining our podcast episode. We like to close out the podcast with a little card pull, a little message. I got my handy deck here, so let's see what we get. All four of us are gonna weigh in on this one. Okay. And it's like a message for the collective moving forward for say like the next 2 weeks, okay? I love that. So that's our intent. I always use the Smith-Waite deck because I have to go back to the imagery of the Smith-Waite because that's how I remembered all the cards.
As you should.
Okay, and here we go. We got the lovers. We got the lovers.
Yay!
So what do we think?
honestly, I'm not going to lie because I am going to out a little bit because we did pull it reversed first thing out of the deck.
We did.
I kind of really love the lovers in reverse.
Okay.
Even though a lot of people are like, reversal and like run away. One, cowards. Two, having it in reverse like this, it's like, because obviously upright it's all about connection, which is really cute when we're doing a thing about like the staff. It's like, oh, everyone's like together. But especially including its reversed imagery, because I like to include both, it's all about individuality. And it's all about like personal freedom and
what we just spoke about.
and like
Boom.
walking your own path and like doing it your own way and learning how to like invest in yourself. And I think that's something that has been consistent about everyone who works here and stays here is the choice to invest in themselves and like grow and move forward. And I think it's really cheesy, but like I think it's also the truth.
No, that was spot on.
Agree.
No, yeah.
I just think my experience here is totally like that growth, that learning. Like I've learned so much here, and it's like, oh my god, I've become a better witch.
That's part of staying in here because we think that like we like 80% higher on vibes.
Yeah,
And,
that's
like,
true.
No,
part of
yeah.
it is keeping up, and when you're surrounded by people that are growing and challenging themselves consistently, the only way you keep up is by
That's true.
doing
Right.
that.
We were even talking about it. I think it was me, you, and maybe somebody else was there talking. It was Alex. Me, you, and Alex were talking. We're like, we just like up each other up because it was just an example I used, but like you'd be coming in like talking about some like spell work you're doing, and I'm like, oh, I gotta up my game. I gotta like start communicating with these like gods and deities, and it just like makes you like keep a great perspective and just be like, okay, we're good.
And
And
it was a whole winter. It was like, this is on your team. This person's on your team.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just going around,
Yes.
like introducing everybody.
So thank you so much for joining us. As always, like this podcast, share it with your friends. Sharing is caring. You can find us on all of the socials at Amityville Apothecary, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Our website is shop.amityvilleapothecary.com. Stay tuned for our next episode where you'll meet the other half of our staff. And as always, drop a comment and let us know what you think and if anything resonated with you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to us today. We look forward to connecting with you again soon, so be sure to come back for the next episode.
And make sure to follow us on social media. It's the fastest way you can get in touch with us at Amityville Apothecary, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And of course, like, subscribe to this podcast. We are eternally grateful for your support.